One of the most bizarre basketball talks became even further this morning. Somehow, a conversation about Caitlin Clark, Michael Jordan, and Nike evolved into one about Sophie Cunningham. Yes, that statement seems utterly absurd.
This could get very interesting. We might have the debut tonight. I said, wouldn't a triple-double be a great way to debut these news, the signature shoe that Nike drug its feet on? Yeah. I seen some folks. Dan Wetzel went on Dan Patrick today, talked about how Nike dropped.
No one would have made that connection a few months ago. People are now unable to stop discussing about. And the explanation is straightforward. Caitlin Clark is at the center of every significant basketball story. TV ratings, ticket revenue, merchandising, sponsorships, and social media. By dinner time, someone would likely create a 20-page piece about a lunch that Caitlin Clark posted. This is the beginning of the narrative. The hubbub erupted.
Right? I voted just like I would in any other league. The best players. Somebody did, or actually something I thought about, nobody else thought about, I thought about it, was the idea that South Carolina, you noticed Asia Wilson and Aaliyah Boston were so up there in the voting, and the Aaliyah Boston thing is somewhat shocking to me in all this. Caitlin Clark being fifth, but Aaliyah Boston having so many votes kind of opened my eyes, and I was like, is there a South Carolina thing going on here involving more South Carolina fans are watching Fever games because of Raven Johnson? And actually, I was a little shocked Raven Johnson wasn't further up the vote.
Fans had been anticipating Clark's long-awaited Nike signature sneaker, which was the subject of rising speculation. The analysts had been anticipating. Even those who don't usually give a damn about footwear were waiting. Then, the topic of discussion abruptly changed. People began posing new queries. What happens to others in her immediate vicinity if Caitlin Clark becomes as one of basketball's most valued athletes? Sophie Cunningham came into play at that point. The timing made this much more difficult to overlook. Games were being won by the Indiana Fever. The chemistry between the squad was becoming better. Every Fever game seemed to generate new headlines, and Clark was putting up impressive performances. Sophie Cunningham, meanwhile, continued to show up next to those headlines. It wasn't because of controversy or turmoil, but rather because fans couldn't stop observing something. Sophie's name kept coming up in conversations about trust, leadership, enthusiasm, and teammate protection.
People were interested in that.
Then the Nike discussion started. Then the analogies to Michael Jordan began to circulate. Then everything became a huge basketball rabbit hole. In all honesty, the narrative got stranger the more people dug into it. What transpired next elevated this discussion to an entirely new level. This was never actually about shoes, which is the crazy thing. It just so happened that the shoes were the spark. What those shoes stood for was the greater narrative. Companies have been looking for athletes who can make a difference for years. Athletes who can attract casual admirers. Athletes who are able to get people to stop scrolling and focus. The numbers abruptly changed once Caitlin Clark arrived. Attendance increased. The number of people watching television increased. Products began to fly off the shelves. Suddenly, even those who had never watched a WNBA game knew precisely who Caitlin Clark was. Such influence is quite uncommon. The majority of athletes dedicate their entire careers to developing that type of fan base. Clark took action nearly right away. That's why the Nike debate got so popular. The corporation waited too long to properly capitalize on her success, according to many supporters. The objections grew louder as the delay went on. Then rumors began to circulate about the new Caitlin Clark trademark sneaker. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. The designs were adored by some want other hues. Before they were even published, some had already made plans to purchase every edition. One admirer sounded as though they were prepared to refinance their home in order to pay for sneakers. That degree of enthusiasm counts because businesses pay heed to excitement, even if it's probably not the greatest financial choice. Demand is something that businesses consider. And when one athlete continues to get attention on a weekly basis, corporations take notice.
But, I mean, if you're doing it based on being worthy to be in the game, I mean, they're not going to flood Raven Johnson in there. I wouldn't think. I don't know what to think. I mean, it was when that 5th in the voting came out yesterday, I was like, holy shit, what the hell is going on here? Pretty surprising. But, and I cannot stress this to people enough, this is an entertainment product. And there are so many people that are not entertained right now. And it's hurting the entire league. You're seeing it. The overall vote total. People want to consume what they want to consume. They're like, you know what? This is not entertaining as it was. I'll turn it over and watch the World Cup. I'll turn it over and watch Major League Baseball, whose ratings have went up, by the way. You know, and there was a not that many weeks difference between the start of the Major League season and the start of the WNBA.
At that point, the discussion took an unexpected turn. People began to recognize that everyone associated with Clark was benefiting from her success. More exposure was given to teammates. There was increased coverage of games. More attention was paid to the Indiana Fever. Sophie Cunningham also benefited from the attention, not because she was given anything by anyone, not due to a particular favor, because possibilities are created by visibility. Caitlin Clark's surroundings are captured by more cameras as they follow her. The number of names referenced increases with the number of stories written. The platform expands in size as attention increases. All of a sudden, Sophie Cunningham was more than simply a member of the team. She was joining in on the discussion. However, that was just the beginning, as another detail kept emerging. The intriguing aspect is that Sophie Cunningham didn't push herself into the narrative. She was drawn into it by fans. This is what makes the entire event so out of the ordinary. Sophie's name kept coming up whenever the Fever culture was discussed. Sophie's name kept coming up whenever someone talked about teammates who supported Clark. It appeared tiny at first. After then, it continued to occur repeatedly. People eventually became aware of a trend. One of the most well-known supporting characters in the Fever was Sophie Cunningham. Not the biggest celebrity, not the athlete who makes headlines. However, a fan is always connected to the team's identity. That is much more important than most people think. Stars are adored by basketball enthusiasts. However, they also adore personalities. They adore athletes who exude enthusiasm, players who express their opinions, players who appear to be fully prepared to argue before breakfast. Sophie is a good fit for that description. The outcome was straightforward. Interest in Sophie Cunningham continued to rise along with Caitlin Clark's fame. Fans wanted more after every conversation, game, social media video, and interview. The tale was then given an additional depth. On the court, the Fever began to look better. Everything was altered by it. Winning draws attention. Stories are created by attention. Larger audiences are produced by stories. Additionally, larger audiences draw even more attention. It turns into a cycle, an extremely lucrative cycle. People were talking about more than simply Caitlin Clark's highlights all of a sudden. They talked about the characters that keep things together, player connections, locker room leadership, and team chemistry. And Sophie continued to appear in those discussions. To be honest, it got to the point where some spectators were focusing almost as much on sideline exchanges as on the box score. It may sound absurd, but sports fans aren't exactly known for staying cool under pressure. This same group has the ability to escalate a 3-second handshake into a week-long argument. Thus, the conversation quickly gathered traction after people began linking Clark's increasing power to Sophie's growing popularity. Additionally, the Nike launch poured even more gasoline to the fire just when the spotlight looked to be already quite intense. The shoe previews followed.
Caitlin Clark reveals that Nike Caitlin won, okay? It looks like it's got to be the shoes. The sneakers are coming out. Those kind of fire. Those are kind of fire. Those are pretty fire. I'm not really a blue guy, but I don't care what color these Caitlyn 1s come out in. I'm getting them. I'm definitely getting them. Then we see this with Travis Scott previewing the all black ones. These are hard. See, these are hard. These are hard right here. Yeah, I like these. Yeah, I'm sold. I'm sold. I'm getting every colorway that comes out. You can count me in for every single colorway. Book it.
Abruptly, the volume of the talk increased. The pictures began to go viral. Screenshots were shared by fans. Discussions about colorways began. The blue variant was liked by some. The darker patterns were preferred by some. Many fans came to the same conclusion. They desired every single one of them. The question of whether Caitlin Clark was a big celebrity was no longer being discussed at that moment. That disagreement was resolved. The true topic of conversation was how much of an impact she could have. And that's where the name Michael Jordan started coming up. Not because nobody was saying that Clark's career was on par with Jordan's. Let's take this seriously. That would be an entirely other discussion. The capacity to draw attention outside of the court, brand value, and commercial effect all contributed to the link. That's what caught people's attention, because very few sportsmen ever get to the stage where their every move makes headlines. It looks like Clark is going that way.
Also, shout out to Ken Swift, shout out to Correlation. There was this this video that was put up for Caitlin Clark. Let's take a look at this. I haven't seen it.
Perhaps the most electrifying player.
When I was a kid, I was always dreaming of being in really big moments.
Caitlin Clark. Oh my goodness, let it fly. CC. Clark with 3 more. The Caitlin Clark effect.
Cece's powerful, man. She is an ultimate competitor.
When she takes over a game, she can shoot lights out.
She has the world in a chokehold.
When Caitlin's going, it's like a boulder rolling downhill. It's tough to stop.
Clark up and what a bang.
You have to guard her the whole court, the whole 94 feet.
We expect to see the magic that we have grown accustomed to when watching Caitlin.
She's changed the game of basketball.
Have fun in this, bro.
Oh, yo, how they get Dewana the Scammer Bonner in there? Dewana, you showed up for this? I can't believe they got Dewana the Scammer Bonner in this. I mean, this is the least you could do. After the shenanigans you pulled last season, this is the least you could do.
Every collaboration makes headlines. Every appearance turns into a narrative. Every product introduction turns into a celebration. Everyone around the celebrity, not just the star, has their careers altered by that level of visibility. That leads us back to Sophie Cunningham. It's actually rather easy to understand why her name became associated with this tale. The folks in Caitlin Clark's immediate vicinity become more noticeable as her spotlight grows stronger. Opportunities are created by such visibility. It generates awareness. It generates interest. Additionally, it sparks discussions that, a few years ago, most likely would not have happened. The fever is still getting better. Together, the roster is still expanding. The chemistry is still evolving. However, the squad continues to garner more and more notice. That ought to tell you everything. Nike is where this narrative began. It grew to include Caitlin Clark. Eventually, it came full circle to Sophie Cunningham. And despite all, there was one thing that could not be disregarded. One of the biggest stars in basketball today is Caitlin Clark. Additionally, any significant action related to her tends to generate additional attention. Many fans think she's just getting started, which is frightening for the rest of the league. Make sure to subscribe to Elite Ball Knowledge and enable alerts if you like this video and would want to see more coverage like this. That way, you won't miss